The funniest thing about alarms is that they do not politely ask for permission before they violently tear your comfortable sleep apart. They just scream into your life. They cut straight through the heavy illusion of certainty and aggressively remind you that something, somewhere, is deeply, fundamentally wrong. And the sound. That sound wasn't just coming from a screen or a speaker. It was the sound of the routine itself violently cracking open. It was the exact moment you realized your precious order is a joke. You finally see it. The system you trusted, the heavy structures you thought would protect you, they are unbelievably thin. They can only fight wars. They absolutely cannot save you. And in that heavy, uneasy pause after the alert finally stops screaming, you are faced with a brutal choice. A choice the sleepwalkers are terrified to make. Do you stay curled up in a tight, frightened ball, desperately hoping the chaos was just a glitch? Or do you stand up, lock your jaw, and finally look the madness straight in the eye? The chaos you have been desperately trying to ignore isn't their chaos. It doesn't need an invitation. It violently barges in like a punchline to a joke nobody is ready to laugh at. You sit there in the dark, your fake smile fading, realizing that your so-called safe, predictable life is nothing but a heavily guarded little box. Your routines are just a comforting blanket. Your thick walls are just keeping the madness outside, until they don't. And when the chaos finally kicks the door down, it laughs at you, because it has absolutely zero respect for your pathetic timeline. Let us talk about your pathetic, comfortable little boxes. You wake up, you go to work, and you politely follow the safe, predictable script. You desperately convince yourself that because today looks exactly like yesterday, tomorrow is permanently guaranteed. But chaos absolutely does not RSVP to your boring little life. It just shows up at your heavily fortified door, knocks violently, and sometimes it doesn't even knock. You can feel it in the terrifying creak of a floorboard at 2 a.m., the sudden, deafening alert that makes your pulse violently leap. It is the dark, heavy secret you completely refuse to admit. Chaos absolutely does not need to explain itself to you. It doesn't need a logical reason to rip your fragile world apart. It just exists, it moves, and it completely ignores your pathetic boundaries. The harder you try to neatly organize the madness, the more it slips through your trembling fingers. It is exactly like trying to catch toxic black smoke with your bare hands. You categorize the threat, you put it in a neat little box, and you think you have finally won. But the chaos is just a twisted, dark joke whose punchline keeps violently changing. So what do the sleepwalkers do? They spend their entire, exhausting lives building massive barricades of routine. They write detailed schedules, they set up alarms, and they politely follow the rules. And for a brief, pathetic moment, it actually feels safe. It feels like the massive, chaotic universe is actually listening to their fragile little commands. But the universe is absolutely not listening. It is just laughing in the dark, waiting for the perfect, devastating moment to strike. The disasters, the sudden catastrophes, the tiny red alerts flashing on your premium screens. What do the weak sleepwalkers do? They freeze in absolute terror. But the chosen one simply laughs. A hollow, heavy, chilling laugh in the dark. You laugh because you finally see the terrifying absurdity of human confidence. You see the ridiculous, pathetic assumption that the violent rules of life will always politely bend to your comfort. You realize that your heavily guarded routines are nothing but a fragile paper shield against a hurricane. These cold, blaring alerts are completely, brutally impartial. They absolutely do not care about your carefully decorated bank account, your fragile ego, or your perfectly planned tomorrow. They arrive with the exact same, devastating message for everyone. The universe looks at your desperate, pathetic belief in stability, and it aggressively raises you absolute, terrifying uncertainty. You cannot bargain with a massive storm. and you certainly cannot negotiate with the pitch-black void. The chaos does not accept your premium bribes. This is the exact, magnificent moment the beautiful illusion permanently shatters. You finally realize that control, real, absolute control, has never actually existed. It is a comforting, toxic fairy tale you whisper to yourself just so you can sleep at night. You are just a fragile passenger on a chaotic, violent ride you absolutely cannot steer. And the magnificent truth is, the exact moment you violently let go of that heavy, fake wheel is the exact moment you permanently wake up. Let us look closely at those specific, heavy, prophetic days. January 6th, 7th, and 8th. The weak world desperately tried to pretend they were just ordinary dates on a meaningless paper calendar. But the alarm violently rang anyway. The terrifying warning absolutely didn't care if you were ready for it. It exposed the massive, ugly, unfixable cracks in the foundation of everything you trusted. Those who aggressively ignored it didn't save themselves. They simply chose to securely lock the doors and stay inside the burning building. Watch the pathetic, desperate panic of the masses. When the heavy illusion of safety finally, violently collapses, they aggressively try to glue the broken pieces back together. They frantically beg the chaotic universe to put them back to sleep. They desperately want the comfortable, toxic lie to return. But the chosen one absolutely refuses to close their eyes. You lock your jaw. You stare directly into the terrifying, pitch-black void, and you feel entirely at home. This is the ultimate, magnificent secret of true psychological dominance. You permanently stop fighting the storm. You completely stop desperately trying to control the uncontrollable. You let the heavy, chaotic waves crash violently around you, entirely unbothered. While the weak world is frantically drowning in its own manufactured panic, you are simply taking a deep, freezing breath of reality. The pathetic game of control is officially, permanently over. Let us watch the pathetic sleepwalkers try to rebuild their fragile, burning house. They desperately sweep up the toxic ashes, trying to perfectly reconstruct the exact same invisible prison they just escaped from. They are entirely, aggressively obsessed with returning to the normal that just violently betrayed them. But the chosen one absolutely refuses to take a single step backward into that comfortable, suffocating lie. You look at the smoking ruins of their fake society, and you permanently let the ruins stay ruined. True, terrifying power is absolutely not about furiously fighting the massive storm. It is the profound, elite ability to stand perfectly still in the absolute center of it. When you finally, violently rip the heavy steering wheel out of your own trembling hands. When you stop desperately trying to navigate the chaotic void. That is the exact moment you become permanently untouchable. You stop bleeding for a future outcome you can never ever control. You just breathe. The universe is a magnificent, dark, twisted comedy, and the heavy joke is entirely on the ones who think they are directing it. You sit heavily on your titanium throne, a cold, unblinking spectator to their frantic, noisy, exhausted circus. You feel absolutely zero panic, zero anxiety, and zero need to fix their messy, collapsing world. The chaos is officially no longer your enemy. It is your ultimate, liberating, pitch-black playground. Let this be the absolute, undeniable final word on the heavy illusion of safety. You cannot politely negotiate with a massive, burning building. You cannot bargain with the chaotic, ticking clock. When the prophetic dates arrive and the fragile system violently cracks, you will be completely detached. Sitting comfortably in an elite, unshakable silence that their panicked minds could never penetrate. They willingly chose the comforting lie. They built their houses on cheap sand, and you are absolutely not going to drown with them. The weak, sleepwalking masses will violently demand that you panic right alongside them. They aggressively want you to share their heavy, suffocating terror. But you sit heavily on your titanium throne, entirely unaffected by their pathetic screams. You have built a magnificent, heavily fortified empire out of the absolute acceptance of chaos. Their sudden, frantic realization of the truth is officially no longer your problem. Let them violently choke on the bitter ashes of their own denial. This is the exact, magnificent peak of your psychological evolution. You stare directly into the massive, unpredictable storm, and you feel absolutely zero need to stop it. Not with a desperate prayer, not with a frantic, useless plan, but with a profound, terrifying emptiness. You offer the collapsing world the ultimate, suffocating punishment of absolute zero emotion. Let the fragile structures permanently fade into the pitch-black void of irrelevance. You absolutely do not ever look back at the comfortable, toxic lies you left behind. You do not check the rear-view mirror to see if they finally learned their lesson. You keep your posture perfectly straight, your jaw heavily locked. You radiate the unyielding, terrifying aura of an absolute king who cannot be shaken by a crashing system. The invisible chains of their pathetic order are permanently, violently broken. You survive their massive world of rules not by following them, but by completely outgrowing them. From this exact moment forward, you are completely, undeniably, untouchable. You are the chosen one, and you have successfully starved the chaos of your fear. If you have permanently stopped playing their pathetic game of control and accepted the dark, drop a comment below and hit subscribe. The fragile, dying circus is officially over. Step entirely into the magnificent, quiet truth. And rule. The ultimate power is yours. Now, rule.